The subject of today's video is one of the top quarterback prospects in his class, was seen as the future of Oklahoma, and at minimum was going to save the West Virginia football program. Unfortunately, things would never work out for him. He never started a single game for the Sooners. He was replaced at West Virginia, and now he doesn't even have a school. In today's video, we're going to talk about the rise and fall of one of the top quarterback recruits from the class of 2016, his crazy whirlwind career, and what has ultimately gone wrong for him, and why he has been a bust. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. At this point, you're probably wondering who we are going to be talking about in today's video, and the subject is none other than Austin Kendall. I'm going to start his story out with a quote. Quote, "I think I've had the worst luck in NCAA history." Kendall has had a pretty crazy story, but in order to understand it, we need to go back in time. His parents would grow up in Columbus, Ohio, and were actually Ohio State fans, but they'd go on to go to Georgia, and Austin was a huge Bulldogs fan. Flash forward a couple years, both him and his brother were high school football stars, but his brother Ryan would get injured, and that would open the door for Austin to start. His brother said, quote, "Initially, I was pretty mad. I was the varsity starter for 2 years and won a bunch of games for the program. But everyone knew he was a pretty good quarterback. We just hadn't thrown him in the fire. He got his chance and he killed it, and I found my niche at wide receiver. After starting as a freshman, the team would get a new head coach, and the parents were worried his high school would translate to the run game, which would effectively kill Kendall's career. Because of that, he decided to transfer high schools in order to try and save what he was doing. His father kind of has regrets though. He said, quote, "He got his first offer when he was at Christian, but it would have been better for us. Ryan probably would have caught hundreds of passes and gotten a scholarship." While Kendall was becoming a star, his brother had turned down a Mercer lacrosse offer to walk on for Kentucky football. The family was not naive, and they knew exactly what Kentucky was trying to do. By Ryan getting that walk-on spot, they were going to offer Austin a chance to play with his big brother in just about 2 years, which goes to show you how big of a deal Austin was. Neil Brown was the lead recruiter at the time, and not only did they give him that opportunity, but apparently Neil was a guy of great character and charisma. Neil was smart, and things honestly would have worked out for him, but Brown would take the Troy job. Kendall's dad said, quote, "Had Neil stayed, he would have went to Kentucky, no doubt in my mind." So as I just said, Neil Brown took the head coaching job at Troy, where he became a huge deal, beat LSU, and then eventually took the West Virginia job. Before the start of his junior campaign, Kendall decided to take his talents to the SEC and committed to the Tennessee Volunteers. He wanted to focus on his team's senior season instead of his recruiting process. It ended up being effective as he threw for over 4,461 yards, 49 touchdowns, and helped his team reach the state semifinals. Unfortunately, Tennessee would lose out on him, as the offensive coordinator for the Volunteers would leave to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers job. This guy was Austin's primary recruiter, and now he had to find a new school. The dad also said that the family had heard nothing from the Volunteers coaching staff for a week after the offensive coordinator left, which raised a major red flag. From there, it also became apparent that apparently Butch Jones was enamored with New Jersey prospect Jarrett Guarantano. In retrospect, both of these guys did not pan out, but Kendall decided to reopen his recruitment. Although Kentucky was heavily in the mix, and so was Auburn, Oklahoma's tradition and explosive offensive scheme eventually rose to the top, and he would commit to the Sooners. At the time of his commitment, he was the number 3 pro-style passer and the 27th best player in the class of 2016. On a random Tuesday night, he had announced he had verbally committed to the Sooners, and Oklahoma fans were extremely happy. He also had offers from schools such as Auburn, Clemson, Miami, NC State, Tennessee, and West Virginia, but he was going to be a Sooner. According to 24/7 Sports, Kendall was a 4-star recruit, the number 9 pro-style quarterback, and the 190th best player in the class of 2016. In 2016, Baker Mayfield was obviously the starting quarterback. He would still appear in 2 games, throwing for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. He would not appear in a single game in 2017 because of Mayfield, but going into 2018, he would be thrusted into a quarterback battle. He originally thought he would be starting, but Lincoln Riley went out and got former Texas A&M 5-star Kyler Murray. Riley said, quote, "He and Kyler had a hell of a battle. I mean, I think he'll take some confidence from that, as he was right there neck and neck with a guy that ended up winning the Heisman Trophy." This was very disappointing for Kendall, and he would appear in 4 games in 2018, throwing for 122 yards and a touchdown. Kendall was extremely disappointed by this, and he said he admitted he thought that the starting job should have gone his way. During that 2018 campaign, he'd play for a total of 67 plays, basically just being demoted to handing the ball off in blowout wins. The one time he did play a lot against Florida Atlantic, it was all cut short when he slammed his leg into an equipment cart and was done for the day. Because of Kyler Murray leading for the NFL and eventually becoming the number 1 overall pick, Kendall decided to stick around for the 2019 season. At least that's what people thought. Apparently after the season, Lincoln Riley had called up Kendall's parents and told him, if he was being honest, that he was looking for some transfer and some junior college quarterbacks. It looked like Kendall was going to start, But then in a matter of days, it would all go away. Kendall had found out that Riley was going for Alabama transfer Jalen Hurts, and because of that, he put his name into the NCAA transfer portal, visited 2 SEC schools and West Virginia, and decided to commit to the Mountaineers. Although the Mountaineers had hosted quarterback Tate Martell, Kendall wanted to go back to the coach that recruited him all along, Neil Brown. Neil said, quote, "I'm excited about it. I think everybody has their time, and he's kind of bided his time playing behind a couple really good quarterbacks, so I know he's excited too." Apparently the Browns and the Kendalls had still been exchanging Christmas cards and were all good friends, so Kendall was going to fit like a glove in Morgantown. While Jalen Hurts would finish the year as a Heisman finalist, Kendall would not exactly have the best 2019 campaign. He was compared to Will Grier, as both of those guys were from Charlotte, North Carolina, and were now at West Virginia, and his high school coach said this, quote, "The arm talent is very similar. And I think with Austin being a student of the game, that will help him tremendously. The people who know him will realize West Virginia got a steal here." So going into 2019, Kendall would make his first career start against James Madison, where he'd throw for 260 yards and 2 touchdowns. They'd have their first tough game of the year as they would go on the road to Missouri, and in a 38-7 loss to the Tigers, Kendall would throw 2 picks. He'd have a bounce-back performance against NC State as he'd throw for nearly 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, but soon things were not going to go his way. He didn't throw for a single touchdown in a close one over Kansas, had 4 interceptions in a loss to Texas, got benched against Iowa State, played terrible against number 5 Oklahoma, had a pick in a close loss to Baylor, and had 2 interceptions in a loss to Texas Tech. From there, he was benched in favor of Bowling Green transfer Jarrett Doege, and Kendall would not play the rest of the year. He went 3-6 in his 9 starts in 2019, and Kendall was basically forgotten. He would finish his 2019 season with 1,989 yards, 12 touchdowns, and an absurdly high 10 interceptions. Going into 2020, things would not get any better for him, as in the regular season, he would only appear in 1 game, throwing 6 passes against Eastern Kentucky. It looked like everyone in the world had finally forgotten about Kendall. He would have his one last comeback story that will forever be in the hearts of West Virginia fans. In the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, the Mountaineers needed a comeback, and Kendall was thrown into the game. He ended up playing spectacular as he led the comeback, had a game-winning drive, and finished the game with 121 yards and 2 touchdowns on only 8 completions. In one of the most important games of his career, he showed out and proved to the world he still had some talent. But the story does not have a truly happy ending, as Doege will still be the quarterback next year, and Austin Kendall put his name into the transfer portal. He apparently said he had heard from multiple schools, but as of Sunday, June 27th, he has not found a place, and time is running out if he wants to play in 2021. To be honest, I think he is done with football and has moved on to the next stage of his life. While there were some rumors that Clemson was looking at him back in the day, there is no source that backs that up, and it's just all pure speculation. So you may be asking, what has gone wrong for Austin Kendall? Well, first and foremost, he never got a chance to really play at Oklahoma, which hurt his development. While we did have great coaches and 2 elite quarterbacks to sit behind, he needed that starting experience, he needed those big moments, and he needed to get his feet wet in the actual college football world if he ever wanted to live up to his potential. When he got to West Virginia, they did not have a ton of weapons for him to throw to. They had a first-year head coach, and he had some competition behind him. According to Neil Brown, his decision-making and his eye movements were not very good, as he had more interceptions than he did have starts. I think he lost a ton of confidence in 2019, and combining that with the fact that he was always getting replaced at Oklahoma, it probably stunted his growth, and he didn't really know what to do. Add in the fact that he was coming behind one of the best quarterbacks in school history in Will Grier, and it was all a recipe for disaster. Overall, I think Kendall had the talent to be a good quarterback, but his confidence was crushed, and he just didn't take advantage of the opportunities he had. What do you guys think, though? If you're a West Virginia or an Oklahoma fan, let me know what you think of Kendall. Let me know what player or topic I should take a look at next. Be sure to hit that like button if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new here, and check out all my other videos on the end screen, including my video about what happened to Will Grier. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.